Hey guys, it's Brendan Borman, and I'm back for another 270 video, where I play the political election game 270. Today, I'll be competing as Abraham Lincoln against AOC, John Kasich, FDR, and Joe Biden 2020. Good luck to my opponents. It's a 5-player multiplayer, and whoever gets 270 electorals will win the White House. Let's take a look at some candidates. We have Elon Musk, vice president for FDR. Of course, John Kasich is a pretty weak candidate. He's a free candidate inside the game. And Abraham Lincoln is a pretty strong S-tier candidate. We are going to use Arnold Schwarzenegger as our vice president, which will give us some boosts in national groups as well as out of California. However, looking at the map and the candidates that I'm playing against, I might want to see how the first couple turns shake up before I make an investment in a key state, like a Texas, a New York, a Florida. We have FDR, who has a really strong national group VP with labor and environment. He, of course, has a huge manufacturing bonus. Because of that, we know he's going to spend $200,000 in labor and environment on the next turn. That is going to put him at $100,000 of leftover funds. And so I don't think we're going to clash in Texas. Let's go ahead and beat him to Texas. That way we can have a strong base out of Texas. Whoops, sorry, hit the wrong button there. And hopefully build a core with oil and gas, manufacturing, and hopefully we'll have FDR going into conflict with another player in California or out of New York. Now, if you are a subscriber, thank you. According to my YouTube analytics, you're in the minority. Less than 20% of my viewers are subscribed. So if you're new, please consider subscribing to help me out. We're on our goal to being monetized, and we are still lacking that 4,000 watch hours. Hopefully, videos like this will encourage you to play 270, but also watch more of my content. Okay, so here is turn number 2. We're just watching the feed to see what other players have chosen to invest their money in. And it looks like AOC has decided to go into national groups herself. She tried to avoid conflict, which is probably why she decided to zero spend early on in the game. And now we want to try to get manufacturing. So we are going to open up into Indiana, Kentucky, and Tennessee, as well as going up into Texas again. We will not get our manufacturing bonus until we're on the 3rd PIP of Texas, as well as having more than 50% of the manufacturing funds. And so by having Tennessee, Indiana, and Kentucky, that will get us to that magical threshold. While we wait for other players to finish their moves on turn 3, it looks like that John Kasich and Joe Biden have themselves into a back and forth battle for swing states, which will help the other players not involved in the overspending. AOC has gone up 1 pip and spent $150,000 in New York, as well as completed her youth votes to pair with her women's movement. Both of those national groups will help her later in the game. And of course, we have FDR, who probably wanted to go into Texas, but we took that from him. And so now he's going to have to decide, is it worth double pipping into California and trying to go for high tech against an AOC? He could go oil and gas. That's not a penalty for FDR. He does have an Elon Musk vice president, which will give him a big major boost in high tech. However, also Pennsylvania and Michigan and Virginia are already spent into by Kasich. And so FDR is kind of in an interesting spot. Honestly, if I were him, I probably would pressure me in Texas, and that would not be good for us. But sometimes you have to do what you have to in order to make winning moves. If I were in AOC's position, I would easily go after Town and Gown with Massachusetts and Utah, and then try to progress either into African American or high tech, probably more so toward high tech because a lot of the African American states have already been spent into. Kasich, he really has spent a lot of money in the manufacturing. However, he doesn't have Texas, and so he'd have to go for the hangman strategy. And the other player we have, Joe Biden, he spent a lot of money in swing states, including locking Arizona, already spending money in Florida. So if he doesn't get swing states, he's going to be way behind. But In addition to us getting manufacturing, which was great that turn, we had a $400,000 clash in California between AOC and FDR. So that gives us a huge advantage over all of the players because we have avoided both a California conflict as well as a conflict over our first state group. You know, those players are still fighting over swing states, and we have that manufacturing money that we can spread out into North Carolina, which will help us with maybe ag or African American later on, but also Ohio, which is going to be uncontested, probably because it's no longer a swing state in the 2024 map. And here we go, turn number 5. Georgia is locked by Joe Biden. We do have AOC, who is going into town and gown states. Michigan is locked for Kasich, and we do have the big turn. The big move on this turn was FDR going up 3 pips, spending $600,000 in California. All 54 electoral votes will go purple. And then AOC spending $150 in New York, solidifying the Empire State for her, but she'll have to go up in town and gown to get the bonus to protect her core states. What we can do now is advance into the oil and gas states. And so I'm just going to put some money down in the Dakotas, Wyoming, Oklahoma, West Virginia. And then I'm going to go up to the 3rd pip in Alaska, Colorado, New Mexico, and Louisiana, which I had previously entered, which will allow me to have 2 bonuses protecting Texas instead of just the 1. Oil and gas is not a huge bonus for Abraham Lincoln, but it is better than nothing, and I can put those funds into California. And of course, my Arnold VP gives me a boost in oil and gas. Now, if I was FDR and I wanted to attack somebody, again, it probably would still be me, because eventually, if FDR is going to win, he's going to have Texas. And so he's probably going to attack me in every single oil and gas spot. We are conflicting a little bit with Joe Biden as we spread out in the manufacturing with the conflict in Wisconsin. That's not super detrimental at this point, but I need to go up in a couple other states in my oil and gas just to see if I can keep that bonus. I could roll over my manufacturing for maybe a couple turns to give me an extra pip in Texas. I feel like I need to lock one oil state, but I also am not really comfortable picking what state that is. And so I'm going to let FDR here make the first move. I don't want to get in a position where I'm really overspending. It's still only turn 7. He's going up now in Colorado and Alaska. We have just 1 pip defense in Illinois with Kasich. Okay, Louisiana is flipped, so FDR does lock the $25,000 worth of oil and the 8 electorals in Louisiana purple. 7 more are locked with Oklahoma in the oil and gas, and now he's pressuring pretty much everywhere. He does hold on to West Virginia by a pip, which is actually surprising that he spent money there. I was counting on getting West Virginia, which would keep the oil and gas bonus. What that tells me is that I'm not going to have the total pure cash in order to keep FDR from attacking me. I'm going to have to get lucky or overcommit to prevent him from getting the bonus, but that also won't help me navigate closer to a ballot round. I want to put some more money into New Jersey so we could potentially have a ballot sooner rather than later. And so I am decreasing my spending in the oil and gas states of South Dakota and Wyoming just a little bit. I don't think that he's probably going to go up a little bit. He's probably going to lock it or leave it alone. He does lock Alaska. So again, that's one reason why in West Virginia I did not go to the 10th pip. I just went to the 9th pip. Just in case he leaves that one alone, we can lock it next turn. But I didn't want to have a clash and waste all of that spending. We did have a clash in Hawaii as well as Nebraska and so we will not have a ballot round on the next turn. We probably weren't going to have one anyway, because we were so many states that have not been locked yet. It has to reach 100 EVs. There's a West Virginia lock. There's a Wyoming lock. So yeah, FDR has actually positioned himself kind of nicely to where he can now hoard the oil and gas. He doesn't have to worry about locking Colorado, South Dakota, North Dakota. He can just put that into Texas. What I want to do, though, is definitely maximize my manufacturing. So I'm going to go 1 pip into Ohio. I am not in danger of losing the manufacturing bonus because I still have Tennessee, Indiana, and Kentucky to go with my Texas share. And so if I go up 50 in Ohio, that won't give me credit toward the manufacturing bonus. But what I can do is save that extra money and maybe attack a Pennsylvania or Illinois on a future turn. If the ballot round came right now, FDR would be eliminated, but he's going to pick off some more oil and gas states from me. So really, Joe Biden or John Kasich are likely going to be the ones that fall first. And so I need to position myself to maximize my standing in the game. And so Kasich had a really rough turn. He'd lost Virginia. He lost, let's see, what else happened that turn? Yeah, he's down a little bit, 106 EVs, so not really. He gained a couple states, actually. But Michigan is locked. That's a state that high-tech really isn't going to come into play for AOC or for FDR. Pennsylvania is likely a state I can choose to just flip if I want it or if I need it closer to the ballot. And so I have 103 electors. I'm not going to spend any more money in Idaho, Montana, Nebraska, or Kansas. I've already have access to those states with my earlier clashes. I also have access to New Jersey, which is 14 electors. And if I need to just lock New Jersey to lock down those EVs, I can, of course, do that. But at the same time, I have to keep my eye on FDR because he has that $500,000 of cash and he has the oil and gas bonus. So the good thing is we were able to make him spend in California. We have some pressure in New York from other players, which is obviously good for us. We have Illinois, which is creeping up. And actually, I wouldn't mind if that got locked too to avoid other players getting into Illinois. Now that I'm facing pressure in Tennessee, I'm going to just go up in Ohio by 1 pip here just to make sure I can keep my manufacturing bonus. I am anticipating AOC doing something, although I don't think that's going to be attacking me in Texas because New York pairs better with California or in Florida. However, she doesn't have really an African-American threat. And Kasich, even though he has some pure cash, that threat of a New York steal is not super credible at the moment. So we'll have to see exactly what shakes out, but we are really, really close to a ballot round. There's the Florida steal. So she had it calculated that she could go to the 9th pip and steal Florida from under Joe Biden's nose. And so, yeah, that's a good move. Now she's a lot closer to the African-American bonus. She doesn't get a bonus, but that will help her later. Those EVs are especially important. And, yeah, she's got 2 really good, strong states in Florida and New York. She also has 144 EVs, so her position in the game is pretty well solidified. We're down to 82, but we have $1.45 million, so I'm not super worried about it. I think what I'm going to do is put 1 pip into New York. I'm also going to go into Oregon and Washington in case Joe Biden is the one who is eliminated. I'll have access to those 2 states. And I want to make sure that FDR continues to feel somewhat of a pressure in California. As unrealistic as it is, I typically would not make a move like that, and like an all-out make-or-break steal. Plus, I only have 82 electors, so I need to make sure that I make it into the next round, and I need to give myself access to a few more states. Montana has still not been entered into, so we'll have to keep our eye on the Grizzly state on the next turn to see if someone does enter it. If we do get closer to a ballot, we have Biden spending $200,000 to try to steal back Florida, and it is, of course, blocked by AOC, who also locks Idaho and Nebraska. Here's the big state. We have just entrance into New York, but Texas. Texas is entered into by FDR. He has put maximum pressure on us by double pipping. Now we're going to have to decide, what are we going to do? He could just think that we are maybe the next person to be eliminated. We're going to choose Illinois to try and get back from Kasich. We're also going to go up in Tennessee just in case our Texas move fails. If we get to the third pip in Pennsylvania, that could help us potentially get swing states or another bonus later on. I'm also going to go up in Mississippi, Alabama, and enter into Delaware. I could also try to take Pennsylvania if I want to not save as much cash. Okay, so this is what we're going to go with. We are targeting Kasich. That will also give us access to Michigan and North Carolina later, although we start off with a clash. So that was not great. Another clash in Florida, and of course FDR decides to lock California. He only spent $600K, so that's it for FDR. Our Pennsylvania steal is going to work, and even though some of our other Old South states and our steals in that region were unsuccessful, at least we avoided clashes, and so our spending was not wasted. After turn 13, we finally have a ballot round, and John Kasich is eliminated, so we no longer have all of that orange. I need to get into Michigan like yesterday. We're also going to go up in North Carolina, going to go up in New Jersey. Even though I have access, we'll just get one pip. I still do not have access in some town and gown states. Let's get into Massachusetts and in Minnesota. And then I'm just going to look at the map to make sure that I'm not facing pressure anywhere else. And I'm really not, because Kasich was the only person who was in my states other than, of course, Texas. But we're behind in Washington and Oregon. We're behind in Michigan. We would have access to California and all of the oil states if something happened to FDR. We're already in New York. And so I really like the positioning that we find ourselves in. And all the states are already entered into, so we're likely going to be close to a ballot round here pretty quickly. We have FDR taking the one pip lead over us, but still behind Biden in Michigan. Same thing in Washington. And actually, we have a Biden forfeit. So Old South does go to Abraham Lincoln. Of course, the Old South does not like Abraham Lincoln, because Abraham Lincoln got rid of all of their slaves back in the day. But that doesn't mean we can't win that bonus inside the game of 270. What we're going to do is enter into the open states because we have an electoral lead. We don't have a ton of bonuses, but we want this ballot to come as soon as possible. And so looking at the map, just making sure I don't miss anything. African American is still open, as is Latino. That's not going to change unless AOC decides to go crazy for Nevada and Arizona and New Jersey. High tech is also up for grabs. Let's see what else. There were a few other bonuses. It's kind of rare to have turn 15 and not have, or at least have that many open bonuses, but sometimes that can happen in a multiplayer match. One thing that's really hurting FDR is just he was not able to expand in this game, and so with him only having the 124 electors, he really can't do a whole lot, especially with his lack of funds. AOC has spent a lot in Florida and in New York, but, we have access to all of her states. She's going to have to defend, and even if she can survive against FDR, as soon as California opens back up, there is 54 EVs, and that would put me over the magic number. So yeah, I would say that we are going to win this match, but we can go ahead and play it out. Connecticut is locked. Michigan, we have a third pip clash. Utah goes purple, And Virginia, we have no conflict. So it's always good to have no conflict. The Wisconsin move will also be uncontested, and so we do have a clean entry, which means we have a ballot round. I'm going to go up in pretty much every state I just entered into to make sure that I get credit for state groups. I'm also, trying to avoid second pip clashes. Don't really need to. I'm going to lock Washington. Actually, in hindsight, I probably should have gone for Massachusetts because FDR has been spending and AOC has not been spending. There's a chance that FDR could actually block Washington, and I'm not at a risk at losing really much of anything. I need to gain a net 8 EVs. I think I could lose Delaware. That's pretty much it. So if I was able to get Massachusetts or Washington, I would win the election on this next ballot. So again, something I didn't think about. And we have a clash in Michigan. So it might come into play. Washington is blocked. So FDR doing everything he can to avoid letting us win on the ballot. But there's a forfeit. So I'm not sure how that would work because it should be FDR who's eliminated. We have AOC dropping out. We're not getting credit for any of our bonuses, which is frustrating. We have $0 for manufacturing, Old South, and swing, but it says plus 25. So public lobby, looks like we won. Happy birthday to my niece Clara. She turned 1 year old. Love you, girl. And again, I invite you guys to subscribe if you're new. Thank you for watching 270 videos. Have a good day, guys.